Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Not many programs across the country that have more buzz, that have more momentum on the recruiting trail than this Michigan program. Now, we hopped on early this morning and broke down the commitment of three-star defensive lineman Benny Patterson. We hopped on Wednesday night and talked about some visitors that'll be on campus for Michigan this weekend. Well, the list got a little bit bigger, and I want to, kind of have a conversation about where Michigan is going on the recruiting trail and kind of what names to monitor over the next couple of days and weeks for this Michigan program in the 2025 class. My biggest takeaway is that this program feels different on the recruiting trail. And I think what should excite Michigan fans the most is this is about as down as you'll see Michigan in a very long time on the football field. And there still seems to be a lot of buzz, a lot of momentum created for this program on the recruiting trail. So I think the question a lot of Michigan fans are asking, hey, what when we get back, when we get the quarterback situation figured out, we're going to get aggressive in the transfer portal. What does it look like on the recruiting trail when Michigan is back winning games to the level that we expect? I think that's what excites most Michigan fans. Now, I want to get into a few additions to the visitor list that I personally am a massive fan of. Now, before we get into it, as always, I think to the Michigan fans in general, y'all know I'm a Michigan fan, and many of y'all know I love talking the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all continue to show to the boys, it's been amazing. It's going to be a blast talking about this program over the next couple of weeks and months. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into this one. Let's start in the cornerback room with this is probably the biggest news we're going to be talking about. Graceson Littleton, top 100 national prospect from the state of Florida, was committed to Clemson from the summer. I remember breaking down his commitment to Clemson in the summer. Decommits from Clemson this morning, announces he's taking a visit to Michigan this weekend. Lamar Morgan is getting aggressive on the recruiting trail, right? We've talked about Shamari Earls. It sounds like we'll be doing a commitment episode on Shamari Earls at some point in the next couple of days. You can add Graceson Littleton to that list of we're kind of building the cornerback class that in the summer didn't look all that great. Now you turn around and look at it going into the month of November. This looks like it might be one of the better cornerback classes in the 2025 cycle. We have the potential to land two top 10 cornerbacks in the country with Shamari Earls and Graceson Littleton. Now you look at Graceson Littleton, maybe not as physically as imposing as Shamari Earls, who is 6'2", 200 pounds, but a very similar kind of cornerback. It's very clear what kind of cornerbacks Lamar Morgan wants to build this defense with, long and fast athletes. You look at Graceson Littleton, maybe not the size that Shamari Earls has, but he certainly has the speed, 10.9 in the 100-meter dash. And the thing that stands out to me about Graceson Littleton, and I remember having the same conversation when he committed to Clemson, this kid is a technician. Like the short area quicks, how fluid he is, how he can use his hands at the line of scrimmage, how he gets his head around and plays the football. He's a guy that you can tell has been trained and coached the right way to play that cornerback spot, a technician at the position. And we see that be kind of a growing importance about these cornerbacks, right? When they make the transition from the high school ranks to the collegiate ranks, being just a really good athlete isn't good enough. It's a prerequisite. You need to be a very good athlete to be good at the cornerback spot, but you got to be a technician too. Graceson Littleton is that kind of guy. And the fact that he decommitted from Clemson, now taking an official and a visit to Michigan, it kind of tells you that Michigan is probably the leader in the clubhouse, if you will, to get Graceson Littleton's commitment. Now, the next player I want to talk about, a guy that we did not talk about Wednesday that I want to talk about, Jamar Broder, three-star wide receiver from the state of Florida. I don't always say this, but I'm going to say it in this case, significantly undervalued, in my opinion. At 6'3.5", 205 pounds, this is the kind of exact wide receiver that Michigan is looking for on the boundary. Now, Jamar Broder is not necessarily a burner vertically. This kid has a basketball background, and you can certainly tell. I mean, there's not many wide receivers that are more physically imposing at the catch point than Jamar Broder. Works vertically down the field exceptionally well. When you throw him those 50-50 balls, they ain't 50-50 for a guy like Jamar Broder. Works the middle of the field exceptionally well in terms of that catch radius that he has. We've been looking for wide receivers that can make plays for Michigan quarterbacks working vertically down the field. Those guys that, hey, can you go up and make a play for me? Jamar Broder's that kind of guy. I think he's the exact wide receiver that Michigan is looking for. Now he's committed to NC State, taking a visit to Michigan this weekend. I love the NC State commitment. There's not a program across the country that identifies these diamonds in the rough better than NC State. And if NC State really likes him, I'm on board with this kid too. I think one, he's underrated as it is, but I think more importantly, he's the exact kind of wide receiver that Michigan is looking for to kind of build this offense around. Again, if you want to entice Bryce Underwood to come to Michigan, you got to build some pieces around him. Jamar Broder is one of those guys. I hope he commits to Michigan so we can dive into the film, because the film is absolutely electric with this kid. Now, getting into a couple other guys that we've talked about, confirmed they're going to be on campus, Christian Ingram. This is a guy that you see the recruiting ranking, right? Low 3-star, not a ton of buzz from the recruiting services. The SEC programs are starting to circle the wagons for this kid, right? Georgia's coming on hard. I know there's a plethora of other SEC programs that want him, and for good reason. And again, we talked about this with Benny Patterson earlier this morning. One, I think Michigan wants to continue to build a lot of depth on the defensive line. You want to get these bodies from the high school ranks. If there is one flaw with this Michigan defensive line, it has nothing to do with the star talent, right? Kenny Graham, Mason Graham, Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore, TJ Guy, playing about as good as any first line defensive line that we see across the country. If there was a criticism to be had that the depth is not quite there, we just don't have enough bodies, the 2s and 3s, to cycle in enough. I think Lou Esposito and this Michigan defensive coaching staff want to fix that. And that starts with just getting bodies on the high school recruiting trail. Christian Ingram's one of those guys that I think, and this happens a lot in the recruiting landscape, guys that, are late bloomers. I think Christian Ingram is certainly one of those. You turn on the film down there in the state of Georgia, just physically imposing. Now he's a little bit raw. I don't think he knows how to use his hands all that well. I don't think he's really maximized that 6'6", 290-pound body. That's okay. Like, get him into the program. It might take a year of polish. I think this kid has some big time upside for this Michigan program. Obviously, some of the fan favorites, Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, back on campus, which is massive. Like, we didn't know if he'd make another visit to Michigan. Obviously, Michigan in there with Notre Dame, USC, Ohio State. Him deciding to come back on campus to Michigan out of all those programs, I think is a really good sign for Michigan. This kid is the new breed of linebacker that Michigan clearly wants and prioritizes on the recruiting trail. Like, we need athletes at the linebacker spot. It doesn't get any better than Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, who might be one of the quickest closers on the football that you see in this 2025 class. And then Elijah Dotson. It continues to seem like Michigan really likes this kid. Couple of different things to know, right? Belleville, Michigan. Who else plays for Belleville? Bryce Underwood. So teammates with Bryce Underwood. More importantly, I love this kid. I don't think Michigan was as high on him to start the process. It sounds like they're really turning it up. This is his third visit that he's going to make to Michigan. Obviously, an in-state kid committed to Pitt. If Michigan wants to turn it up on this kid, land the commitment, I think they will. And he's another really good football player to add to that defensive backer that is suddenly becoming a really good class for Michigan. We'll continue to keep you guys updated. I think we'll have some commitments to talk about over the next couple of days and weeks. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.